All right, my friends, here we go. We're going to learn this week's Torah reading, right? Religious Jews around the whole world are now reading this, what is it, the fifth chapter of the book of Genesis. Genesis, the first one was Bereshit, and then we had Noach, and then we had Lech Lecha, and then we had Vayera, and now we have Chayesara. So the book of Genesis told us about how God created the world from nothing, and the whole reason he created it was to put Adam, man in the world, to start making reality. Before that, there wasn't real reality. And now there's going to be real reality. What's real reality? Real reality is when man decides to serve God, so to speak. That's a thing that God could not do on his own. So how does man serve God? Well, we have what's called the creation, and then we have the creator. And the whole trick, a man is put right in the middle, right smack in the middle. The whole there's the creator is there before, and then God makes this whole creation. And the very last thing, he puts man right in the beginning to see who's going to win, right? The two teams are there. Now man has to make the decision. Who's going to win, the creation or the creator? And of course, man is himself like a small world. He is creation, he's created. But on the other hand, man also has a part of him, which is the creator. That's what it says, that man, so man inside of himself plays out this whole saga of reality. So when God makes the world is a big lie. It says the world is a big lie. But if man does what God wants in the world, then the world becomes true. That's the trick. Not that man goes to heaven. Heaven existed before the world was created. I mean, it was part of the creation. So the goal is not heaven. The goal is that man should be in this world, and all the odds are all stacked against him. 6 days God made world. Finally, right at the end, he makes man. And man has to somehow or other realize that he is just a creation and serve God. That's what Adam was supposed to do. God made it pretty easy for him. He put him in heaven, in Gan Eden. Gan Eden is another name for heaven, like heaven on earth. And he said, I want you to make it even higher than it is. Don't eat from this one tree. And Adam said, that's pretty easy. I'll do that. And his wife said, hey, I got an idea. Let's eat from this tree. And Ed said, oh, that's pretty easy. Why not? Why not eat from the tree? So he ate from the tree, and he wrecked up the whole entire plan. Okay, really, it was not so simple, because really what Adam did, it's part of the plan. I mean, we can't understand this. Impossible to understand. But it was written in the Torah. And the Torah was written before the world. So Adam had free will, but somehow or other it was, like I said, we can't understand how this works, but it was predetermined that that's what he was going to do. Right? So God knows everything. Not only God does know everything, God is everything. He is the future already. Got it. Okay, let's not get into that. Let's just deal with the facts. Adam did not do what God wanted. And the first person to do it was Abraham. So Abraham, he really passes the test. Not just the test, the tests. God gave him these 10 terrible tests, awesome tests, and all the tests were basically the same thing. What is stronger, the world and your feelings about the world, how you love your money, you love your success, you love your son, you love the promises that God made about your son, you love your certainty that you have about the world. I mean, God promised Abraham he was going to give him the land of Israel. And or do you love God? What do you love? So, of course, I love God. What's the question? So God said, okay, you love good. I'm glad you love me, because now you're going to have a son, and this son is going to be really something special. And he is going to teach the whole world about me, just like you. Nobody else got the point, just your son did. Abraham said, well, I'm pretty happy. That's pretty good. So God said, okay, now take him and kill him. So Abraham said, okay, no problem. That's what you want? 100%. So God said, wow, you took your son to kill him with a whole heart. I had to stop you at the last minute. That's pretty good. So you're going to be the Jewish people. That's it. Jewish people are going to come for you. It's going to be a whole race of people that they're not going to think about anything except for serving you. So Sarah hears about that. Now what happens? Sarah is 90 years old, right? She gives birth to Yitzchak, 90 years old. When Yitzchak is 37 years old, Abraham takes him to sacrifice him. And he doesn't sacrifice him. It ends up with an angel. When Sarah hears about this, now we'll talk about what she heard. When she hears about this, so she dies. So she gave birth to him when she was 90 years old, and now, 37 years later, she's 127. So that's what's happening. That's how this starts off. Strangely, this whole Torah portion is called the life of Sarah. This is the life of Sarah, and it begins after she died. In fact, that's the whole thing, that Abraham is going to look for a place to bury her. So why? So we'll talk about that. Let's go. Vayehu chaye Sarah, and it was the days of Sarah. This is future. Yehu is future, but if it has a vav with a patach under it, it transforms it to be past. And it was the days of Sarah, 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. And really, in Hebrew, it doesn't come out. Let's translate it exactly. And they were the life of Sarah. It says the life of Sarah. It doesn't say the days of Sarah, the years. It says, and it was, and they were the life of Sarah, 100 year, singular, 20 year, 7 years. The years of the life of Sarah. Okay, these three last words are seemingly totally unnecessary. If it wasn't that the author was unquestionable, who was the author? God. So you can't ask questions about God, but nevertheless, a normal person would say, well, either it's poetry or it's a mistake or something, because it doesn't really seem to add anything. It says, and it was the days, the life of Sarah, 100 year, 20 year, and 7 year, 127 years. That's it. And then it says the years of the life of Sarah. What does that have to repeat it again? So let's see. I have to turn this off. I'm sorry, 1 minute. Okay. Rashi, Vayu Chaye Sarah, that was the life, the years of Sarah, 100 year, 20 year, 70 years. Therefore, it is written, says Rashi, Rebbe Shlomo Yitzchaki, therefore it is written, Shana, it is written year in each and every one. I mean, it didn't have to write that. It could have said the life of Sarah was 127 years, or even more, 127 years. That's a normal way you say things, right? How old are you? I'm 30 and 7 and 100 years. Who says something like that? But here it says, why does it say each one? Shana, to teach you something special about when she was 100 and when she was 20 and when 7. In each and every one, to tell you, Shekol Echad, that each one, named the 100 years and 20 years and 7 years, Doresh Nidrash Atzmo, is learned on its own. She was 100 years, like 20 years for sin. Now, there's a law that a person until 20 years old is not punished in heaven. So when she was 100, she was as pure from sin as she was unpunishable as she was when she was 20. Ma about 20, just like a 20-year-old person, lo chata, has no official sins. Shari eno bas onshin, she cannot be punished in heaven. Av bas kuf lo chet. She was 100 years old. She was without any sin. There was nothing to punish her for. And bas chaf kabazayin, and when she was 20 years old, she was like 7 years old for beauty. Just like a young child is beautiful. So that's how she was when she was 20 years old. Okay, this really sort of doesn't make any sense either, but it has to be explained. Because you'd think, you would say, and then when she was 100 years old, she was like 20 years old for beauty. 20 years old is beautiful. And 7 years old for sin. That would be good. But no, it doesn't say that. It says when she was 100 years old, she was pure of any sin, just like a person when he's 20 years old can't be punished in heaven. 20, so she also couldn't be punished when she was 100. And she was as beautiful as a 7-year-old child. All of them were equal. That's why it says in the end, Shnei Chaye Sarah, that all of her years, 120 years, they were all good years for good. Let's look at the Bal HaTurim. It is written above, Butuel Yolad et Rivka. In the end of last week's Torah portion, it talks about Abraham's relatives and what they give birth to, right? Abraham, how does it go? Abraham was one of 3 brothers. Abraham and Nahor and Haran. So Haran, he dies. He gets killed early, Haran, and he gives birth also, he gives birth to Sarah and to Milcah, Haran. Milcah, she gets married to her uncle, Haran, Nahor. Nahor, she gets married to Nahor, who is Abraham's brother. And he has a whole bunch of kids, Nahor, whole bunch of children. Gives birth to Nahor. That's a whole bunch of children he gives birth to. And Nahor, one of the children that he gives birth to, finally in the end, is Betuel. And Betuel, he gives birth to Rivka. Now, who is Rivka? Rivka is going to be the wife of Abraham's favorite son, Yitzchak, the one that he took to sacrifice him. So at the end of last week's Torah portion, we learn that Rivka is born. She's born, and she becomes a big tzaddik. So it says Rivka was born, she was a big tzaddik. So it says now, as soon as Rivka was born, now Sora can die. It says, Ad shelo shaka shemsho shall Sora be, until the sun, in other words, the illuminator of Sora, set, Zarcha, that raised up the son of Rivka. So it says Sora was 100 years old. Sora, Mea Shana, this is the first initials of Shemesh, right? Shemesh, Shin, Mem, Shin, Shemesh. Shemesh. Like it says, V'zorach HaShemesh v'bo Shemesh. It says the sun sinks and another sun comes up. So it says, Shnei Chaye Sora, what says, Vayeyu Chaye Sora, and they were the life of Sora. What does it say was the days of Sora? So listen to this answer the Bal HaTurim gives. It doesn't say Yamei, Shnei Chaye Sora. It doesn't say the days, the years of Sora. It says the years of Sora. It doesn't say the days of Sora like it says everyone else. The days, because Sarah, in order to give birth, when she was 90 years old, she became young. And after she gave birth, she became old again. So it says it stopped from her the days of her youth. Therefore, it says Shnei, the years. When she was young, it was her days. And now it's her years. All right. Another opinion, how do you know that the main life of Sora was when she was 90 years old and up, when Yitzchak was born, when she was 90 years old? Kishenolat, Ukol Yameh, and all of her life was Kuf Chav Zayin. All of her life was 127. In other words, her real life was the last years of her life, when she was 127. In other words, those last years after she gave birth to Yitzchak in last week's Torah portion, her last 37 years, that was her main life. We're going to see that there's an opinion that says exactly the opposite. Okay, here's another opinion. It says, we have to understand, why does it say Vayihiyu? Now, Vayihu usually means something bad. Vayihu. Here it says, like all the other tzaddikim, it says Vayechi Adam. Vayechi shame. Vayechi. What should say? Vayechi Sora Mea Esrim B'Sheva Shana. What does it say? And it was the days. Now Vayihu, usually when it says Vayihu, it means something bad. That's what it usually means. It says Yisber al derech omer, like it says Shesibut mitata. The reason that Sora died, when she heard about the Akedah, she heard about the sacrifice that Abraham took her son Yitzchak to sacrifice him. And it was almost slaughtered. Parcha nishmata, her soul left her body. Now there's two opinions what this means. One opinion is that Sora, when she heard that God did not want Yitzchak to be sacrificed, so she thought that maybe there was some sort of a blemish in him. And she was already 127 years old. She thought there was a blemish. It made her so despondent and heartbroken that she died. Another opinion is exactly the opposite. When she heard that, she didn't know that her husband that was going to take her son to kill him. When she heard that he was going to, and he almost killed him, she was just so, petrified by the whole thought that her husband would kill her own son, that she died. Anyway, whatever reason it was not a happy thing. According to that, and the death of Sora was because of the news that he heard of Yitzchak. That's what it means, Vayeyu Tsar. Vayeyu Tsar means these were bad, it was bad. It was bad news that made her die. Or maybe we could say another way, that she died because of this bad news, that if it wouldn't have been for this, she would have remained alive. Right? If it wouldn't have been for Abraham taking Yitzchak to sacrifice him, she would have remained alive. And that's what it says, Vayihiyu. What does it mean, Hayu? A new existence. Vahiyu means to be in existence. It would be a new existence. Mishunit mehakitzva shekitzva yameh. That her days were set to be 127, but if this bad thing wouldn't have happened, then Vayiyu, it would have been new life. She would have gotten more time. Because of this deed, then her life was only this amount that it said, 127 years. In other words, she could have lived longer, but because of this Vayiyu, bad news, she didn't. That's why it says the life of Sora, the tzaddikim, 127, that is the life of Sora. The tzaddikim, they make their days come to life. And evil, selfish people, their days are what enliven them. In other words, one person, he puts meaning into every moment. And if he realizes his life is going to come to an end, so he tries to put as much meaning into time as possible. Another person is his life is what enlivens him. So when he starts to get old, he starts to get miserable, he gets all depressed, he realizes his life is coming to an end, So he gets sadder, and he goes, the other person is, if he realizes his life is coming to an end, so that enlivens him. He wants to get as much done as he possibly can to put in life. So that's the idea of a tzaddik is a person that is connected to the Creator. So because he's connected to the Creator, so he realizes every moment the Creator gives him as he wants to do something for the Creator, doesn't think about himself. But if a person's thinking about himself, then he was, I only have another 10 years left. I only have 5 years left. I only have 2 years left. Right? There's a lot of people that they went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said that the doctor told me I only have 2 years to live. And the Rebbe said the doctor has permission, according to the Torah, to heal people, not to kill people. And he said what the doctor says, that's his opinion. Doesn't mean that it's true. He is entitled to his opinion. But you have to only take his opinion seriously if it's about positive things. Positive things. If it's about negative things, then you don't have to take his opinion seriously. Get an opinion from another doctor. See? So that's what it means. Tzaddikim, people that think about God, they bring life into their days. And people that don't think about God, so their days, that's what gives them life. Okay. Kli Yakar. Oh, here's a nice one. By Abraham, it says these are the days of the life of Abraham that he lived. It ends up by saying Asher Chai. Something like that also by which is Yishmael. Yishmael did tshuva in the end of his life. In any case, by Sorah, it doesn't say that Chayata, that it doesn't say this, that she lived. Asher Chayata. These are the years that she lived. Right? By Avram it says, Eli Mechai Avram Asher Chai, that he lived. Something like that it also says by Yishmael. Why not? Because she had pain of birth and the pain of a pregnancy. And not only that, she always had to be secondary to her husband. So therefore, it wasn't real life. That's what he says. Some people say no, that Avram didn't live the full amount of days that he was supposed to. It says that he died 5 years early, so he shouldn't see his grandson, Esav, going and becoming evil. Therefore, it says by Abraham, these are the days that he lived. In other words, he was supposed to live more, but all that he got was this. And he could have lived more. But by Sorah, according to what the Kli Yakar, that he said that Sorah, though she lived her full amount of days. Full amount of. Here's another one. You see that he disagrees with what the Bal HaTurim said. Bal HaTurim said that her last years were best years. And he says no. The Kli Yakar, or is this? Oh, that her last years were bad. V'higiu shanim asher tomar ein li b'hem chafetz. Like it says, there'll come days when I don't have any desire. Therefore, her last years were called multitude because they were days of pain and difficulty. But the first years, they are like special days and she loved those first days. That's her. Here, the Dat Zikanim, he sort of agrees with the first opinion. He says her first 90 years were without any children. And a person that doesn't have any children is considered to be dead. So therefore, these 90 years were not, it says, therefore, you have to consider these 90 years. If you add on the 32, then it comes out with the same number. The main thing was the last 32. That's the last 37, I'm sorry, 37. The 37 is the numerical value of Vayihiyu. Vayihiyu Chayisor, and there were. Those are the 37 years. The last part of a year, that's the main, her main life. Let's just do a couple more because we're getting late here. Sorah died in Kiryat Arba. That's Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to eulogize to eulogize Sarah and to cry for her. Rashi says, why was it called Kiryat Arba? Because there were 4 giants that were there. Achiman, Shishai, Talmiba, and their father. Another meaning, because there were 4 couples that were buried there. A man and woman. Adam was buried there with his wife. Avram was buried there with his wife. Yitzchak was buried there with his wife. And Yaakov and Leah were buried there also. Rachel is buried in Beit Lechem. It's a different place. It says that that's how Abraham, he wanted to bury, he went to Hebron to bury Sarah there, and he went to a special place to bury her. He went to Achuzat Kever. He said, one second, take wherever you want to. He said, if you want to the border, so Abraham said, give me Marat Machpelah. That is in the end of your field with a full, I'll pay full price, give it to me as Achuzat Kever. Now, why did he want that place? Because he knew that Adam was buried there. Why is it called Marat Machpelah? It's a double place. It's a house, and on top of it was another house. Or another explained that it was doubled with partners. Adam was buried there, and Adam and his wife, and now Abraham and his wife. But Abraham had not been buried there yet. How did he know it was there? Because he knew that Adam was buried there. So a whole thing in the Zohar that explains that he had certain signs that showed him that Adam was buried there. Now, of course, you can ask him a question. Why was Adam buried there? I mean, what's it got to do with the Jews? Adam was a general figure for all mankind. So I'll explain that to you. Just 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Just one moment, and I'll explain it. Okay, so Abraham says to, it says, listen, Ger v'toshav anochi emochem. Abraham says to Ephron owns this land. Abraham says, Ger v'toshav anochi emochem. I'm a temporary dweller and I'm a permanent dweller here. Give me this land and I will bury my dead over here. Now this is Hebron, right? Very important for Abraham to have this place. It says that all prayers go through Hebron. Even though we point religious Jews, when they pray, they face toward Jerusalem. But the fact of the matter is all prayers go through the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, especially now that the Holy Temple is destroyed. So it says that the prayers go through Hebron. Why we don't face Hebron? Because the Holy Temple still has the ultimate importance. Okay, so it's very important to Abraham that he be buried in this place. Now, in Judaism in general, the land of Israel, let's put it even more, the world is very important. And the importance of the world is going to be demonstrated through the land of Israel, how important everything is. And Abraham insisted that he be buried in the same place as his wife. And eventually we're going to see that Abraham's son, Yitzchak, and his wife were buried there, and Yaakov and one of his wives are also buried there. So Abraham, he set the pattern, and he said, I want to be buried over here. Now, why was Adam buried there? Why did he want to be in the same place of Adam? Adam was the father of all mankind. So we're going to see a very interesting thing, that Abraham was the only one that really carried out the purpose for which Adam, the first man, had been created. So he was really the only relation to Adam in a way. Listen to this. Okay. So he says, Rashi says like this, I am a temporary dweller. Abraham says to the one selling the land, I'm a temporary resident and I'm a permanent resident here with you. Says Ger be'eretz acheret. I am a temporary resident because I'm just passing through. I come from another land. And I just happen to settle with you. Okay, is that true? That's true. If so, why does he say toshav? That I am permanent. So according to what he says, he means, Ger, I'm just passing through. Toshav, I happen to be temporarily living here. I just ityashavti, toshav, I'm here temporarily. Midrash Agada, the Agada says like this. Abraham said to Ephron HaChiti that was selling him the land, he said like this, if you want to sell me the land, then I am a temporary resident, just passing through. But if you refuse to sell me the land, then I am a permanent resident and I'll take it legally. Because God said to your seed, I'm giving you this land. Okay, so the Lubavitcher Rebbe asked the question, what in the world is going on here? I mean, if Abraham was really a permanent dweller there, so what does he say, I'm here separately? I mean, God promised him the land. So Abraham should have just said to Ephron, listen, my friend, I'm a representative of God. You know who God is? God is creating you. So if you make any trouble for me, then, you don't come to me. I was sent here by God. God's going to take it on you. That's what Abraham should have said. The land, the whole world belongs to God, and God gave this to me, so give me the land. But Abraham didn't say that. He said, I'm only a temporary dweller here. I'm temporary. That's if you want to sell me the land. But if you don't want to, then I'm permanent. So the Rebbe explains what's going on over here. Why did Abraham want this land? Because that's where Adam was buried. Adam's whole purpose was to do what God wants. A person that does what God wants, he's got a reason to exist. He's connected to Adam. A person that does not do what God wants, then he's not even connected to Adam. The only reason Adam was created was to do what God wants. So that's what Abraham was saying to Ephron HaChiti. If you want to sell me the land, then you're doing what God wants. Then you're connected to Adam. That's why you're here, is to do what God wants. Therefore, you've been here longer than me, right? You want to sell me the land, then you've been here longer than me. I've only been here, a couple hours. But if you don't want to sell me the land, then you're not doing what God wants. God wants you to sell me the land. If you don't do what God wants, then you're not even connected to Adam. You have no right to exist. Your existence here is not a real existence. Therefore, I've been here for 2 hours. I'm here 2 hours longer than you. I'm a permanent dweller. I'm here permanently. 2 hours is more permanent than you. Therefore, if you don't give me the land, I'll take it. I'll take the land, it's mine. But if you do want to give me the land, then you have as much right to it as I do. In fact, you have more right. You've been here before me. So I want to buy it. Here we learn that if a non-Jew does what God wants, that he has a right to existence. He has a right to eternal existence. He has a right to the land. Not to the land of Israel. He has to give it to the Jewish people. But on the other hand, he has a right to live. And that's the whole idea of Marat HaMachpelah, giving the whole world a chance to do what God wants. As we'll explain more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hope to see you all tomorrow at 8:15. With Mashiach now.